What's up? This is EJ Stewart.
What if I dropped 40 days, 40 nights?
One, you can't do it.
All you are your words. If there's anything you learned about me, I'm going to keep it 100 with you.
Going to be a long 40 days this year.
My skill shot will hold for your city for 40 days.
Rest in peace to all my ops.
You're the guy who can't finish a sandwich. You think you can go 40 days? This isn't normal!
Oh, you're wrong, brother. I'm going to go the distance.
Let's go! Let's go is right. What's up? This is EJ Stewart. You are watching 40 Days and Counting, where I, EJ Stewart, do 2 live stream shows per week. A little bit of a mix-up this week. We couldn't do a Tuesday evening show. I'll tell you guys why in a little bit, but it was a good reason why I couldn't do a Tuesday show, because I got some fun content stuff to talk to you guys about. But why I wasn't available on Tuesday, but we usually do Tuesday 6 p.m. Today we're doing Wednesday 6 p.m. just for this week alone. This will be a Wednesday 6 p.m. obviously a little after 6 p.m. because of some technical stuff, some fun technical stuff that I can also update you guys on, which is really exciting about this whole journey we're on right now. But typically 2 per week, 1 Tuesday 6 p.m., 1 Friday 8 a.m. A continuation, of course, of the 40 Days and 40 Nights series that I did, where I did 2 shows every single day, every single weekday. We're not doing that, but we still giving you guys the fun show that we had before, keeping the legacy going. And we got a lot to get to. Obviously, the Knicks are about to play at 7 o'clock, so I will try to not be too long on this show. I want to make sure I can watch the game. I'm sure you guys want to watch the game, but we will talk about a big development coming up for this Knicks game with Joel Embiid out. We also got to talk about some NBA playoff stuff regarding Luka Doncic and when we may see him, and some fallout from the Boston Celtics, who choked away their first round series against the Philadelphia 76ers, and some questions about what is the vibes going on with Jaylen Brown, because it seems like as soon as the series ended, he started acting weird headlines started coming out about him. So we'll talk about Jaylen Brown. We'll also get into some NFL football stuff, some Russell Wilson stuff. We got an update from Chapel Hill with Bill Belichick. And I want to talk about, again, something I was really excited about that I did yesterday. I got to see the Daredevil Season 2 finale. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. And I got to do it in a very special setup. Shout out to Brandon Davis of The Brandon Davis Show. Also of Phase Hero. He had a live official watch party for Daredevil Season 2 finale in New York City at the ABC Studios. Beautiful setup. Beautiful venue. Beautiful event. All these Daredevil fans flocking to the event. It was a pretty intimate crowd, though. It was about 200 people, but really nice theater. There was a Q&A with Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio afterwards, so I got to check that out. I brought my friend. It was his birthday. Shout out to my guy, James Holly. I wanted to do that for him once I knew that there was a possibility maybe I can get us into the venue, and we did. So that was why I wasn't here yesterday, but we'll talk about that at the end of the show. Again, this is going to be a fun one. 40 Days and Counting, streaming live in multiple spots, and including a new spot, I believe. Hope it's there. Well, I guess I can't really check at the moment, but I'm assuming it's all good. But streaming live, multiple spots, including the usual suspects. So, of course, we're streaming live on YouTube, New Generation Media. Shout out to the folks watching us on YouTube. Of course, also streaming live on X, Action EJ, as well as streaming live on Instagram. Oh, excuse me, X is EJ_Stewart. Instagram is Action EJ. X EJ_Stewart. Instagram Action EJ. And new destination we're streaming live now. Shout out to the Buzzer app. I'm doing some stuff with Buzzer, a new sports media content space and sports media mobile app. They've been awesome so far, and some of the stuff they have working up, and they're gearing up for this next coming months, for this playoff run, for the next football and NBA season next year is going to be really exciting. I'm really excited to be partnering with them. Shout out to Chris Dunn. Shout out to the team over there. They've done a phenomenal job so far, and I'm excited to be streaming 40 Days and Counting for the first time live on Buzzer. So shout out to Buzzer. Shout out to the team over there again. We're going to be doing some really fun, exciting, awesome stuff. Maybe as early as, I don't know, maybe tomorrow. We'll talk about that again, maybe a little bit later on the show. Maybe I'll give an update later, maybe tomorrow on social media. But let's get to it, man. 40 Days and Counting. A lot to get to. And we got to get to this big story that's coming up because the game's about to happen. So Knicks going to play the Sixers in just a little bit. But the Sixers will be out there, big star. So Joel Embiid is out for this game. He will not play. He's dealing with what they are saying is ankle and hip issues if you remember after or during Game 7 of the Boston series, you remember Joel Embiid was kind of getting stretched out on the sidelines where his full body was on the ground, and they were like basically pulling his arms and his upper body from the rest of his torso, and so we knew he was dealing with something. Then he played on what was that, Monday when they played against the Knicks. He didn't look great. I'll be real. His defense was horrendous. He couldn't stay in front of anybody, and the Knicks knew that, and they attacked him. And offensively, he was able to get to the free throw line because he does do that, and we'll have plenty to talk about Joel Embiid and flopping when we get to Jaylen Brown. But overall, offensive impact really wasn't felt that much. He didn't have a great offensive game. But it was a surprise to hear that he would then be out for this game. He tried to work through shoot-around. Apparently, he was too sore to get through shoot-around. So they elected to sit him and decide, you know what, we're going to just pack it in and go without him tonight. So big game for the Sixers, obviously. You want to try to steal home court advantage, but now they're going to have to do it without Joel Embiid. What I will say real quickly is, on the flip side, for the Knicks, you cannot in any way let your guard down, because this is a Sixers team that is still dangerous even without Joel Embiid. We saw what they did to the Celtics in Game 2 of the first round series, where they did not have Joel Embiid neither of the first two games. The Celtics blew out the Sixers in Game 1. It looked like this was going to be a sweep or a gentleman's sweep based on how that first game went. And then the Celtics go ice cold in the second game. Tyrese Maxey puts on his cape, and the Sixers get out of Boston. Also a great performance from VJ Escombe in that game as well. The Sixers really kind of put it on the Celtics, and they get away with a split in those first two games. So the Sixers are still live. This is not a team that you can definitely, take your foot off the gas just because Joel Embiid's not out there. In some ways, for the Knicks, there's actually, listen, they'd much rather him not be out there than be out there. But Joel Embiid, in terms of the weaknesses he does have defensively, does make some of the game plan stuff a lot more straightforward. You saw the Knicks put him in a lot of pick and roll action. Jalen Brunson was able to really hunt him and target him in those drop coverages. So was Mikal Bridges. And now that he won't be on the floor, it'll be Adem Bona who will get much more playing time along with Andre Drummond. Those guys are more mobile, than, especially Bona, than Joel Embiid. So the Sixers will probably play much differently defensively. They may be able to be more aggressive on Jalen Brunson's ball screens. So for the Knicks, I would look for them to run a lot more of their flex stuff that they've had so much success with towards the end of the Atlanta Hawks series, and then in Game 1 of this series. They were still running the Karl-Anthony Towns high post with him kind of orchestrating the offense from that pinch post actions. That is going to, I think, be like the bread and butter for this game. Last game, they ran it a lot too, but then they went back into the Jalen Brunson pick and roll bag. They'll get into that stuff as well, but I think now that they don't have like an obvious guy they can hunt and target in pick and roll actions, and the Sixers, I think, will maybe be more adept to switch. They may be more adept to put smaller guys on Karl-Anthony Towns. It was an adjustment I was calling for them to do anyway. I thought it didn't make sense for Joel to be the guard cat in this series. I looked at this and I wondered, maybe this is a situation where if you're the Knicks, you decide, you know what, we have to figure out a way to attack them, knowing that Embiid's not going to be out there, because that's not going to be an avenue for us to really get anything off. So I wouldn't expect anything in terms of the Knicks attacking Joel Embiid in pick and roll actions. He's not going to be on the floor. What I will say for the Sixers is this is a little interesting, because this is obviously a huge game, but you almost wonder, with how bad the first game went, is this Nick Nurse and this is the team basically saying, listen, the first game was rough. He's not feeling great. Does it really make sense for us to put him out there in a situation when we know he's hobbled and we know he's compromised? And would it be better suited for us to see if we can get him closer to 100% by the time we get to the series being in Philadelphia? Even if we're down 0-2, we feel better about him being able to put together two strong games where he's a lot closer to 100% than he would be if he goes out here today at 50%. And because the series is a every other day series, you may never be able to get him any significant rest. They're not going to be able to. This is the only chance they probably got. So I also wonder if there's a little bit of gamesmanship, so to speak, from Philly and saying, hey, let's actually, get him healthy. They killed us the first game. If we go out there with him at 50%, they're probably going to kill us again. So let's be smart about this, and let's say we'll sit him down. We've shown that we can win these games in other people's buildings, even without him. So it's not like we're completely dead. Like we have still a shot to do something here. That'd be one thing I would maybe have my eyebrow raised, because I was stunned to see that Joel Embiid wasn't going to play tonight. So that's happening over in New York. Again, you'll keep an eye as that game gets closer to tip off. It'll be probably shortly after 7 p.m. But big story there with Joel Embiid missing game 2. Of course, if you guys want to check out any of the post-game action from this game, make sure you subscribe to the Orange and Blue Buzz podcast. That is my New York Knicks podcast. I'll be giving a full breakdown of everything that happens for game 2 and previewing Friday's game 3. So that'll drop sometime either tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. So make sure you guys keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. You can, of course, find that wherever you get your podcasts. The video versions of those episodes also get posted to the New Generation Media page, which is one of the spots that we're streaming live this evening. So again, shout out to you guys for checking me out. Let's keep it going, though. Another big story happening with the playoffs is Luka Doncic. So Luka has not played any of these games so far for the Lakers. The Lakers still were able to advance past the first round. They beat the Rockets thanks to some great play from LeBron James. Marcus Smart had a great series. Luke Kennard had some really great early games. Austin Reeves has returned to the team, and he's been a little up and down trying to get his timing right, and he wasn't great in there for Game 1 loss against the Thunder yesterday. But the Lakers, despite what has been a pretty impressive run, given they haven't had their superstar player, still are clearly missing Luka Doncic. So the questions remain, is he coming back? When will we see him? He did speak to the media today to kind of give us an update on where he's at. And I'll be honest, this doesn't sound very promising. This doesn't sound like a guy to me who is close to getting out there on the floor anytime soon. So I think if you're a Laker fan expecting to see Luka Doncic playing for you in this postseason, I think the only chance that happens is probably if they win this series. If they find a way to shock the world and beat the Oklahoma City Thunder and get to the Western Conference Finals, that is probably the only opportunity you will have to see Luka Doncic playing, I think, playoff basketball this year. If that does not happen and they are in a situation where they get bounced, or if they're in a situation where it's a do or die elimination game in this series, they're going to be playing those elimination games without him. I don't think that he's going to be a factor in this series. He said, talking to the media today, that there was essentially a 8-week timetable that was given to him when he first injured his hamstring. Remember, he injured his hamstring towards the beginning of April. This was in a pretty high-profile game. It was against the Oklahoma City Thunder, ironically, and he had pulled the lame. It was a hamstring that he injured earlier in the year. It was a hamstring that bothered him all year, and it did not look good. He had trouble getting to the back, and we didn't really know a timetable. Now we have a more specific timetable from Luka, who says it was going to be about 8 weeks. Let's hear from Luka Doncic himself, who explained the challenges he is facing trying to get back healthy.
I'm just doing everything I can. Like I said, every day I'm doing stuff I'm supposed to do. Obviously recovering now, working. Like I said, doctor said 8 weeks at the beginning of the first MRI. I'm just going day by day, and I feel better every day.
Yeah, I mean, he says he feels better. He's trying his best. They told him 8 weeks. We know he went to Spain. Actually, I think it was Tim McMahon, I want to say, had a very interesting theory on this from ESPN. Shout out to Tim McMahon. He said, yes, Luka Doncic went to Spain, and they said, he's going to Spain to get some maybe special treatment on his hamstring. He was like, typically guys go to Germany for stuff like that. So that sounded weird at the time. And he wondered, considering Luka Doncic, remember, he flew to Spain or flew to Europe earlier this year to see the birth of his child. And he was only there for a couple days, and then he left. And I don't want to get into some of the TMZ side of the issues he's having with the mother of his kid, but there's now been some issues with that, and so that's gotten a little messy. So he hasn't had a lot of time to spend with his newborn. And Tim McMahon wondered if they use the injury as like a cover for him to spend some time with his new family now, with his son or the daughter. I'm actually not sure if it's what the gender is of the child, but if he was getting time to spend with his newborn, that actually what they were doing, since he was going to be injured, and the diagnosis and the prognosis for him to not do anything you could do nothing in Spain, right? There's no reason for him to have to necessarily be stuck in Los Angeles, especially towards the end of a dead regular season. So that was an interesting, theory. And considering Tim McMahon's pretty in the know, and he's definitely good when it comes to reporting on Luka Doncic, I take that and wonder, okay, that's probably what was happening. So the expectation that he had some blood spinning, special, never before seen treatment to get his hamstring right that we don't do here in the U.S. that he got overseas, that seems unlikely now, especially given you heard Luka say that I'm trying my best, but they told me 8 weeks, and right now we're at week 5. That is where we're at. So again, this series is not going to end, before 8 weeks. I mean, well, it's going to end well before 8 weeks. This series will end next week. So the earliest you'll get him at is 6 weeks. I don't think that you're going to see him. And I think if you're the Lakers, it's a interesting dichotomy, right? Because we have a guy who just got paid, or is about to get paid, if you didn't already. But he's making $300 million. You kind of wonder, all right, it's not a guy waiting for it to get his money. If the money is already going to be coming to him, what is the harm with him deciding to get out there on the court and try to be out there for his team? I just feel like with the way things are working right now, he signed that 3-year extension in August of last year. With the way things work right now, after what we've seen from Halliburton and Jason Tatum and different guys trying to play healthy, trying to play hurt on lower extremity injuries, those were calves. I think the old days of a guy is not nearly 100% with a lower leg extremity injury and them just going out there and playing to say the hell with it, those days are dead. You're never gonna see a Willis Reed. You're never gonna see. I mean, we see right now with Joel Embiid. He's sore and he's not playing. I think that players, and I think it's also encouraged by teams. As much as these teams want to win and they want to win championships and they want to win badly in the playoffs, I think they know that these guys are still investments even in the playoffs. And for someone as important as Luka Doncic, if he's badly compromised, it is no use to try to throw him out there into the wolves against a absolutely ferocious and physical and athletic Oklahoma City Thunder team that's going to test him in every way. You don't want to risk further injury. You don't want to risk any other weird things, and there's no use for it. There's no hope for it. There's no reason to push the envelope with him. So I think that's probably what's going on too. Is the reality is that they know that this is going to be an uphill battle whether he's out there or not. Does it make sense to put your star-prized acquisition from last year, throw him out there against the Thunder team that looks like it feels like inevitable to get back to the NBA Finals when you're a heavy underdog? It doesn't make sense. So I'm not expecting to see Luka. I think that as great a season as he had, he really started to turn it up right before the turn of April happened. It's probably over for him. And I don't think if you saw his demeanor and some of the comments from today, I wouldn't feel good about seeing him the rest of this postseason. So Luka, hamstring injury right now. He is unsure when we will see him. And again, I think it's unless the Lakers pull off a miracle, maybe we're talking about a possible Western Conference Finals thing. But even that, you're still talking about we're in weeks 6 and 7, and then we're pushing towards 8, which was the original diagnosis. It's going to be tough. It's going to be real tough for him to get back out there on the floor. Finally, man, before we get into some other football stuff, I want to talk quickly about this Jaylen Brown situation. So this is crazy. Again, this guy lost in the NBA playoffs and immediately started acting up. So the Celtics president, Brad Stevens, had to deny allegations that there was some kind of rift between the organization and Jaylen Brown. So this originated from Tracy McGrady. Tracy McGrady, who actually does have a relationship with Jaylen Brown, who says that he is aware that there is some contention within the Celtics organization when it comes to Jaylen Brown, and that things aren't completely copacetic, and it makes some things that they're going to have to work out if they want to move forward. It was stunning to everybody that heard that, because we were like, what is he talking about? We didn't know about any issues with Jaylen Brown. He just won a championship a couple years ago. He had a great year this year. What could be wrong? I don't know what that is. We'll get into some of what Brad Stevens had to say to deny that earlier today. But like I said before, this guy, the season ended and he immediately started crashing out. So they lose Game 7 after blowing a 3-1 lead to the Sixers. Now, I will say this. I found it funny that this was the lane of his crash out. Because I think during the game at one point, I posted, because I post on X, and I had somebody think that I was a Celtic fan or I was rooting for the Celtics. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you an idiot? Like, me rooting for the Celtics? Come on. But I like basketball, so I just call, and I hate both these teams. I'm not, as a Knicks fan, I hate both the Celtics and the Sixers. So I'm not really rooting for anybody. I actually kind of was a little more nervous about the Sixers, but they're both going to be tough matchups, so that really wasn't my angle. I was just watching what I was seeing. And I think I posted on X, and maybe on Buzzer, actually, that I was like, man, it feels like, because I'm watching this game, and, Embiid is doing his flopping thing, and Jaylen Brown, is going up for these jump shots, and I felt like he was taking contact. I'll be real. I felt like there were plays where he was driving and pulling up, that he was taking contact, and because he doesn't embellish as flagrantly as Embiid, he wasn't getting calls. And that was just my honest opinion. I was like, man, it feels like he's getting contact on some of these calls. They're getting no whistle. I was fine with them not blowing the whistle because I'm not someone who wanted to see a game get bogged down by calls, but I did feel like it was a little uneven, given, again, when Joel Embiid gets any kind of contact, the ref seemed really quick to want to blow the whistle. So, needless to say, it wasn't a complete shock to hear Jaylen Brown complaining about refereeing. I did not know he would go, again, complete full crash out mode and talking about how bad the refs were. Here was Jaylen Brown talking about how he feels like flopping, especially when it comes to Joel Embiid, is a scourge on the entire NBA.
I mean, this is my personal opinion on basketball. Some of y'all might disagree. You know what I mean? But argue with your grandma. Flopping has ruined our game. Joel Embiid is a great player, one of the best bigs in fucking basketball history. Flops. He know it. This ain't breaking news. This ain't, you know what I mean? It is what it is. Y'all can clip it up, like I said. Y'all can post it on these paid accounts that y'all these bot, whatever. That's just my opinion.
I wanted to keep that last part in because he then went on social media and then made some cryptic thing about like rage baiting and clickbaiting, like content being like, bad for society. I'm like, but you literally said to clip this clip of you saying that flopping is ruining the NBA. So he seemed to be somehow upset about the response to it, even though he actually openly invited people to content create off of his commentary that flopping is ruining the NBA. So I want to get to also kind of what he said, which I thought was even more out there, which is that there was some kind of agenda against the Celtics, which I found quite interesting. But just on this question, flopping sucks. Nobody likes it. Nobody roots for it. I am all for calling fouls that are fouls, and I think the issue I do have sometimes with fans, and maybe this is me, maybe my Jalen Brunson, colored glasses are coming in here, but there are times where like a foul's a foul, and if you don't like it, that's like kind of too bad. But like, like if a guy draws a foul, you have to call it, and it's more on the team to be smart about how you defend a guy, just like what we talked about with the Knicks and Joel Embiid in Game 1. I was like, listen, the team won the game. They didn't do a good job keeping them off the free throw line. There were some fouls they made. Some of them are ticky-tack. But there are some fouls they made that are fouls that, like, you just got to be a lot smarter. So sometimes fans run into, oh, this guy took 16 or 15 free throws on my arm. But did you watch the game? I'm watching the game, and the team is fouling him. Like, there may be ticky-tack. There may not be calls that you love, but they are fouls. And the referees, if they're calling it that way, you got to adjust. So there's that aspect to it, but I don't disagree that. I mean, I don't know about it's ruining the NBA, but I think flopping is annoying. I don't think guys want to see it. I think the James Hardens, the Lukas, the who are the other guys? Joel Embiid, obviously, Trae Young's. Like, yeah, there are guys who, it kind of becomes. Oh, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, of course, being one of the big ones. It becomes a lot harder. It's harder for some fans to watch when the game gets so bogged down with the free throws being such a big impact on the game and guys living on the free throw line and feeling like, offensive stars who are already really tough to stop are being bailed out by the referees who are calling contact when defenders are already in hell trying to guard these guys, and then now the referees are also giving the guys a lot of rope. That's why I've always appreciated how the refereeing has shifted in the NBA playoffs, and I feel like, listen, I don't think necessarily it's a shifted for Embiid, but I feel like in these playoffs, I felt a shift when it comes to the lack of calls. Like, they're letting guys play physical. These have been more physical games. So this felt to me a little like sour grapes. It felt a little bit like a one size tried to fit all deal for Jaylen Brown, where he took one game. Where I definitely think that, again, my personal opinion, because I said it live, and as you know, anytime I do content, I keep it 100. I said live, I thought that Jaylen Brown was getting contact, he was getting called, and I feel like Embiid flops, and he was getting calls. But I don't know if this was like this scourge on the NBA and that this has been this huge problem all year. The NBA's had a lot of other issues other than flopping. They've had tanking teams, they've had style of play issues. Like, it hasn't been, flopping has not been the conversation, really, with the exception of how to stop the Oklahoma City Thunder. Because they are the team, particularly when it comes to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, that because they are so good, and then they have the superpower where he can get to the line so often, that they feel unbeatable. That's really been the only conversation, but they have been way lower on the totem pole of issues with the NBA. So I think Jaylen Brown was probably being a little dramatic, saying that this is ruining the sport and ruining the league. It's not great, and I wish that referees would be smarter. Like, I think that if Adam Silver, was awake, I think that he would empower his refs to target floppers and be like, listen, I'm not going to just keep giving you calls simply because you're throwing your arms up, you're throwing your heads up. Like, some of these guys, like, you have to, just like we talk about with an example like a Draymond Green, or some of the guys in the NBA who referees know are kind of hot-headed, so they have to referee the game and manage their conversations with those guys very carefully, because they know that they can fly off the handle any moment, and technical fouls can turn to ejections, and guys get reputations. It should be the same way with offensive players. If you know this guy is able to draw a lot of fouls, call the ones that are there, call the ones that are fair, but then also on the flip side, they should be also scouting these guys. Okay, where are they tricking me? Where are they pretending like they're taking contact where they're not? I don't know if the refs really are doing that work. It feels like it doesn't matter who Shai plays against or what team he's up against. It seems like he gets these calls. With Joel Embiid, it doesn't matter who the refs are, what the opponent is, what the situation is. He takes a little bit of contact and he's just absolutely flailing. And to me, it's one of those things where if a guy, even if he takes a little bit of contact, if he flails, don't call a foul. My thing is, like, let the guy, like, watching someone like Cade Cunningham, who gets a lot of free throws, like, he draws legitimate contact. I think Tyrese Maxey, I don't like that he drives into people, but, like, when he's driving to the paint and he's going up for shots, he's drawing legitimate contact. Like, those guys are doing it without, like, flying out of bounds or flying to the ground or doing these histrionics. The referees, I think, should have a better whole handle on things like that. Again, to say that this is ruining the sport, thought it was a little dramatic. That was just me. But it went further with Jaylen Brown, because he said not only is this ruining the sport, but he believes that there is actually an agenda against his Boston Celtics.
I was complaining about officiating, rightfully so, because we were, like, our team finished dead last in getting calls. And I was vocal about it. I got thrown out some games. And they keep saying, like, this push off and this stuff like that. You know how many players do that? That is that's the common play, a basketball play. Every player does it. So why are you targeting me? They clearly had an agenda. Like, maybe because I spoken that was critical of the refs in the regular season. So how they responded. Like, we gonna call you're gonna lead the playoffs in offensive fouls.
I mean, this is a crash out, man. I mean, this is Jaylen Brown got his money's worth, and he did get fined for this. He got his money's worth when it came to getting after the referees. And they're saying that there's an agenda against him and the Celtics because of his commentary on the refs. And look, refs are human. Could there be biases? It would not surprise me. Do I think there's a bias against the Celtics? It seems impossible. I also think it's a little ridiculous for a team that takes a zillion threes to complain about not getting enough free throw attempts. You don't drive to the basket. You don't play an aggressive style of basketball. So you can't point to the amount of fouls that are being called or the amount of free throws you're taking and saying, well, this is why there's an agenda, because look at the numbers. If you take way more outside shots than other people, those plays are, rocket science, way less likely to, result in foul calls than someone driving to the basket and trying to shoot a layup or even shooting a mid-range. 3-point shots are not going to be a avenue to get free throw attempts. So once again felt like a little sour grapes. Felt like Jaylen Brown was again trying to take one issue, which is Joel Embiid and his flopping, and to make it this larger issue with the NBA and with the Boston Celtics. And I don't think he came off looking great. I don't think this looks good. Like, this is a guy who had a great year. He led this team in a major way. And, you lost a 3-1 lead, man. Like, Joel Embiid wasn't around for most of this series, or at least for a part of this series. And then he came back. He was a shell of himself in Game 3. Like, you should have handled business. You should have beat this team. This should not have been a 7-game series. You were a 2 seed. You spent all season talking about how, you guys all said this was a gap year. Well, watch this. Like, you've been out here talking all this noise all year about how you felt like this team was being disrespected and your team was being disrespected. Well, you gotta face the music when your team comes up short. You came into the Eastern Conference with the best odds to get to the NBA Finals. All the experts and all the aficionados wanted to say that the Boston Celtics were the team to beat in the East, and that they were one of the hottest teams in the NBA, and you laid an egg. You laid an egg. In Game 7, yes, you didn't have your running mate Jason Tatum, but again, all year you talked about how the Celtics were going to be no drop-off without Jason Tatum, so you can't use that excuse. You had all the opportunities to close that team out with Tatum on the floor earlier in that series. You didn't get it done. So to hear all this stuff about, refereeing and they got agendas against us, like, come on, man. Like, I feel like Jaylen Brown's better than that. Like, Jaylen Brown's a star, borderline superstar in this league. He had the best year of his career this year. Like, it was entertaining. It was funny to hear this, but I thought this was over the top. I didn't need to hear all this nonsense from him after they lost this series. And then the other side on this, again, we want to talk about now his state of mind and kind of where he's at in regards to how he's feeling about the team. This is what also was interesting. So again, they this season ended with 56 wins in a regular season, great regular season, and he carried them for most of the way, but by himself, quote unquote, in that there wasn't another superstar with him with Jason Tatum. But at the end of the day, they didn't get it done, and they got eliminated in the first round. So you wouldn't think that this would be Jaylen Brown's favorite year of his career, right? Well, think again. Here's Jaylen Brown.
And this group was a special group. I'm so proud of this group and the way we played. I wish we trusted that style of play a little bit more, but I know playoffs kind of shifted our rotations and what we wanted to do. But I'm so proud, and it was my favorite year of my basketball career. One, streaming with you guys, chat, was awesome.
I'm sorry, that was stunning to me. This is a guy that has made the NBA Finals in previous years and lost. He then won an NBA championship and was Finals MVP. And this was the year that was his favorite year. It was a year where his running mate was coming off of a devastating Achilles tear and was trying like hell to work his way back. He got back, but you ended up losing in the first round of the playoffs in a year in which you saying that there was agendas against you and the rest were biased against you, and this was your favorite year of basketball. That says a lot to me. Like, I'm sorry, like, for a guy who's won a championship to say that wasn't your favorite year, or a year you went to the finals, to say a year that you got eliminated in the first round and your running mate was coming back from a debilitating injury and then couldn't play in the Game 7 because of lower leg issues. It's an odd thing to say. I don't know. It feels like for Jaylen Brown, I've said this before, and I've said this about other guys. It feels like now that he's won a championship, he'd prefer to just make a lot of money and score a lot of points. And like, he wants to compete, he wants to win, but I now start to wonder if he is fully on board with this two-man power trip. Shout out to Stone Cold Steve Austin and Triple H that they've been doing in Boston with him and Tatum as like equals. I don't know if that's what he wants anymore. Because I hear a guy say that I was most happy when that other guy was gone. And he was rehabbing a devastating injury, and I was running the show when you didn't have any team success with that. None. Because nobody cares about what happened in the regular season. Nobody in the postseason. You're flamed out. You can't look back and say, oh, this was my favorite year. Like, that's crazy. I don't know. It seems like an odd thing to say. And again, it does make me wonder where Jaylen Brown's head's at when it comes to what he feels about his basketball career. And I'm one of those folks that I don't think this is a great look, But I also, like, I said this about other players too. And I forgot who, but there have been guys who say, oh, how could this guy not want to be on this championship team? Some guys, like, they sacrifice, they win a title, and that's amazing. But then there are other things they want to do in their career, just like other people in other careers and other job fields, accomplish one thing. You say, okay, don't you want to go and do that again? Some people are like, oh, no, I want to do other things. And, it's weird with sports because we hedge so much on team success, which is what we should do. That sometimes it seems foreign. It seems like, alien to us to see someone think, wait, your favorite time playing basketball wasn't winning a championship. I mean, these guys have different goals in mind and different visions and things they want to do for their careers. And for Jaylen Brown, this is the first time he got to lead a team as the number one option. And I don't even, kill him for it. I don't kill him for, feeling like, oh, I won a championship. I don't know if I want to keep doing this Jason Tatum two-man thing anymore. I'd say the same thing about Kyrie Irving when he left Cleveland. They're a guy, once you win a championship, if you ever won a championship and you're saying stuff like this, I'm like, what's going on? Once you won a title, I mean, you can do whatever you want, really. Will we think different of you? Maybe. But I think it's well within someone's right once you won a championship to maybe want to pursue other opportunities in your career, even if that means you have a less of an opportunity or less a chance on paper to win a championship. It's not to say that he wants to leave and go somewhere where he doesn't care if he doesn't win. He's going to compete to still win a championship, but he may want to try to do it his way. He may want to try to do it as the leader or as the number one guy or as the face of a franchise as opposed to having to share roles with Jason Tatum. So that's why with all this stuff in that comment and then T-Mac saying that there's some issues in-house, it all led to people wanting to ask Brad Stevens, yo, man, what's good? Well, here's Brad Stevens saying that he has not heard anything about Jaylen Brown being frustrated. Oops, actually played that in the wrong thing. Sorry, let me bring that over here. Here is Brad Stevens talking about Jaylen Brown.
I talked to Jaylen Monday a little bit after he just real quickly and was nothing but positive. He has not expressed those frustrations to me. We've been here 10 years together, and I do think that, obviously I love JB, and everybody around here loves JB.
So he says nothing to see here, folks. He says I talked to him a couple of days ago, and there were no issues with frustrations. But, again, wording is interesting. We didn't say that he expressed frustrations this week. We said, did he ever express frustrations? So he's saying that it didn't happen when I talked to him on Monday. I'm like, okay, that was Monday. What about last Monday? Or what about 3 Mondays ago? Or what about, February 13th? Or whatever. Was there any other day this year that Jaylen Brown came to you and said, hey, I'm not feeling this, or there's things happening in this organization I don't like? That's what we want to know, Brad Stevens. Not necessarily only what he told you on Monday. Because maybe on Monday he did not have any things that he wanted to discuss. But T-Mac does have a relationship with Jaylen Brown, and I don't think he would just be jumping out the window saying that if Jaylen Brown didn't want him to get that out there. Here's more from Brad Stevens talking about that his door is always open if anybody wants to talk to him about any issues.
My door is always open, and if anybody ever wants to come in and talk about it and talk about, their team, their place, whatever the case may be, I'm all ears. And that would be 1 through 16, not just, not just Jaylen, not just Jason, not just the guys that have been here. I think it's really important to be available. So I certainly am, and none of that has been expressed to me.
So they're going to be an interesting team to follow, man, because they got a lot of money coming to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And we are still in the era of the second apron. And the Boston Celtics had to make a lot of bold decisions last year, including getting rid of essentially all of their centers to clear cap space to field the team this year. It is going to get, with every year, with every increasing dollar on those contracts for Tatum and Brown, it's going to get increasingly harder to field competitive teams while trying to stay under that second apron. It may just flat out be impossible. These are the two highest paid guys in the NBA, more or less. So I will wonder about what the future is for this team. Will they want to go forward once again with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum as a tandem that is that highly paid? Will there be any thoughts of making a deal somewhere else to see if maybe they can get off one of these contracts? very, very interesting development to follow in Boston. But Brad Stevens today saying that he did not hear about any issues with Jaylen Brown in terms of frustrations that he had expressed, despite what you saw from Tracy McGrady. This was an interesting story, man. I want to get to, and I'll try to run through some of these quickly. I know I'm running a little low on time. I got on a little late, but Gio Lopez, who was the former quarterback of North Carolina, did not have a lot of nice things to say about his former program. So if you'll remember, he went to UNC. He was expected to be, the starter, expected to be one of the guys that would be a key fixture in Bill Belichick's first year at Carolina. Needless to say, that didn't go very well. It wasn't even close to what Bill Belichick or anybody wanted to expect from his first year at Carolina. And Gio Lopez is now the quarterback, or he's at least one of the quarterbacks at rival Wake Forest. And he spoke to David Hale of ESPN. Did not have kind words about how things were run with the Tar Heels. He said here, quote, "Back at the other school, it felt like there's no air. Here, it's fun. They're moving us in the right direction, energized. Guys are enjoying football. It's like fresh air." Lopez went on to say, and this is I'm reading from a Bleacher article, Lopez went on to say that playing for North Carolina was, quote, more like work in terms of his daily experience. He said, after the first game, it felt like getting through the day. You don't want to live like that. We're up at night thinking about the next day. Again, this was a team that went 4-8 last year, and Lopez, who was, again, supposed to be one of their stars, did not work out that way. He ended up transferring in a year. Hale also, the reporter, mentioned that Lopez is making considerably less this year than he made last year. So I am very fascinated by this because it's the one dynamic that maybe wasn't talked about enough when it came to whether or not Bill Belichick could be successful as a college football head coach. Could he be a vibes guy? Could he understand the vibes? Could he ever make the vibes immaculate on a college campus? He is so Bill Belichick. He is so, crotchety. He's, he is who he is. That was probably an aspect of the job that maybe we never gave enough, of a thought process to, is whether or not he can make work fun for these kids. Because that's what they are. You're talking about guys. Yes, there are a lot of older players now playing college football because of COVID year, transfer year, all this other stuff. But you still are dealing with a lot of 18, 19, 20, 21, even 22, 20, 24-year-olds. And we just saw Belichick trying to transition the Patriots from being a veteran-laden team to a younger team. We saw how much of a disaster that was. It sounds like, according to Gio Lopez, that he had no idea in terms of how to build a culture that actually made it, fun for kids to want to go out there and compete. And I don't want to make this a bigger thing than it is, because the bigger issue for Bill Belichick, in my opinion, and I said this while this was happening, was where were the good players? No disrespect to Gio Lopez, this guy was not, a Heisman Trophy watch candidate. This guy was not someone who was expected to be an NFL prospect. He was a lower tier quarterback. He started at South Alabama, I believe it was, but he was not a guy that was supposed to come in to this, that college football season as one of the quarterbacks to watch, this maybe for a first round pick or anything like that. Where were the good players? Belichick was bringing in guys and recruiting guys, but I saw a bunch of 3-stars and guys that weren't really all that heralded. And it's not to say that you can't win with those guys, like we saw Kirk Cignetti do it. But again, then I go back to vibes. Then I go back to environment. That is going to matter if you're going to get the most out of those guys, especially if they don't have the kind of talent that Miami has, or the kind of talent that Indiana has, or the kind of talent that Ohio State has. They don't have that kind of talent. Then are you able to build a culture where it's all for one for all, and guys are having fun and guys are engaged? You can maybe make up for some of that talent discrepancy. If you don't, then 4-8 is what you're going to get. A 4-8 miserable team that got blown out on a lot of weeks, that didn't look like they had much joy playing for Bill Belichick, and was pretty much a drag for the whole year. And I don't know if it really gets fixed, because I haven't seen any adjustment to the recruiting strategy. I haven't seen the 5 stars coming in to go play for Bill Belichick, which is what is going to need to compete at North Carolina. I've seen Butch Davis coach there. I've seen Mac Jones coach there. I've seen Larry Fedora coach there. I've seen a bunch of guys coach at Carolina, and at various points, those guys were able to get some really high-end recruits. And this is not the first go-around for North Carolina football trying to become a thing. Excuse me, they've been trying to become a thing for like 15 years. They can't do it because they never fully want to buy in to what it takes to be a great college football program. The fan base and the community still will always care more about basketball. And they've also had some bad luck with NCAA violations too. That has definitely been a part of their story as well. But like at a certain point, like those guys were getting 5-star guys. Not a ton, but they were getting a few because they were trying to turn the tide. And they couldn't get North Carolina to be a prominent college football program. So Bill Belichick, thinking that he could do it with a bunch of 3-stars and then also making their lives miserable, there's only one way this is going to end. It's going to end badly. So North Carolina is going to be one of the interesting stories to follow next year. I definitely am curious to see what they do in year 2 of Chapelville. But to see a former, and especially considering, Gio Lopez, I don't know what he wants to do with his life. Like, he's playing at Wake Forest. It's not to say that his chances of playing in professional football are completely dead or anything like that. And to be clear, it seems like Bill Belichick seems to be on a lot of the outs when it comes to relationships with the NFL. But I'm sure he still has a lot of relationships. It's kind of bold for a young man who, in theory, may want to play professional football moving forward to, while he doesn't name Bill Belichick, basically be like, that environment that guy created was a living hell, and it was part of the reason why I feel much happier and we are thriving much better at another program, and it's Wake Forest. It's not like this guy went to, LSU. It's not like this guy went to USC. If he went to Miami, he went to a place where it's like, all right, well, look, listen, you're at Carolina. Like, even if things were going well, you're an 8-win team. Like, you're a program that's not a football program, a football school. Like, he went to Wake Forest. He went to another non-football school, another kind of like irrelevant program. It's like, it's great over here. We're having a blast. This is fun. Like, I'm loving it here. That's not a good look, man. It's not a good look for Bill Belichick. And I said months and months and months ago that I was out on Bill Belichick with the Carolina program after I initially was actually intrigued by this hiring when they first hired him. When I saw the Hudson stuff going sideways, I was like, this is going to be a disaster. And that's what it's been so far. I'm going to hold the Russell Wilson story because I want to make sure I get out of here on time. I just want to mention one thing real quickly before I get out of here. We'll talk about Russ on Friday morning when I do my morning show. That's going to be at 8 a.m. Eastern time. I did want to talk quickly, give a major shout out to Brandon Davis. Like I said, I was at the Daredevil Born Again season 2 finale watch party in New York City. This was at the ABC Studios. They have a really nice theater. I saw a couple people post about it on social media. Very high-end security. I was like, wow, this feels very intense for a bunch of like nerds, half the people here are in cosplay, but okay, sure. Metal detectors, a lot of people in suits and earpieces, like, definitely a lot of shield agents walking around for this, but it was a great event, and it was a great event. Shout out to Brandon Davis, shout out to Marvel for putting this thing together. We got to see Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, and Ian McDonald, he was the director for the last episode, the season finale episode. Talk about it afterwards. They did a phenomenal job in the Q&A. As far as news, I didn't see much news broken. If I was trying to take like content from that, and what did I hear that was interesting? I mean, I know that Vincent D'Onofrio said that what he has shot for season 3 is insane. He says, I've shot some really insane things that are going to push my character in a direction that I think fans are really going to like. That was probably one of the headlining things that I remembered from the conversation that I really did enjoy. But a lot of it was like, if you're a fan of the show and a fan of these actors, like a lot of it was very nuanced with like character choices and acting choices. Like, Wilson Fisk and Slash D'Onofrio talking about like, that famous scene when he's in the courthouse pleading to the New Yorkers to fight for him. Like, the different, the voice crack and the changes in his voice and the actual intentional choices that he made. Or the scene where Matt Murdock reveals that he is Daredevil. Really cool fact that apparently they initially planned that scene to be Charlie talking to Vincent. Like, he was supposed to say, like, I'm not a fool, I'm Daredevil. Like, say it to him. Which it took one of the show writers to step in and say, I actually think it would be a lot more powerful if he turns to the room and says, I am Daredevil. Which, shout out to, it was a young lady, I don't remember her name, apologies to that young lady's name. She was not part of the panel, but she was like in the audience, and they pointed her out. Shout out to that young lady, though, because that was a way better decision. Because that scene, you want to talk about, first of all, to see that show in a theater setting, perfect episode for that. It felt like a movie. And so much so, it was so good. I felt like I was watching a movie, but obviously it wasn't. So I'm like, when the show was, you kind of saw the show was about to end. I'm like, it feels like I've only been here for 50 minutes. Like, well, yeah, it's a 50-minute show. Like, I'm typically there for a Marvel movie. It's like, 2 hours, 2 hours and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So it kind of felt weird to be like, oh, it's over because it's only 50 minutes. But like crowd reactions, like when he says, I am Daredevil, people screaming, cheering, great reaction. But again, a really nice story shift and a story decision in terms of how to push the story along in a smart way. So I thought that was really cool. So shout out to them. They did a really great event. I thought the last episode, that was probably the best season finale of any Daredevil seasons besides season 3. Season 3 season finale is the best. That nothing will beat the triple threat match in the penthouse Wilson Fisk between Matt, Dex, and Fisk. That nothing will beat that scene in my opinion. But this was awesome. We want to talk about hallway scenes, like doing the inverse of a hallway scene where instead of it being, we do see where first of all awesome action with Charlie Cox and Kirsten Ritter playing Jessica Jones, them like tag teaming through all of these task force guys, but then seeing the juxtaposition of Wilson Fisk and his brutality in a hallway scene amongst a bunch of protesters, epic. So many epic moments. The scene on the steps with him and Fisk talking it out and trying to get Fisk to take this deal to leave New York City and leave the mayorship. I mean, absolute cinema. Phenomenal episode, phenomenal season. Cannot wait for season 3. We know Mike Coulter is back. We saw him show up as Luke Cage in this episode, which was awesome to see, and I'm excited to see him. We've seen the pictures out there, so we know Danny Rand will be back as well, of course. So we'll get Iron Fist back. I can't wait for season 3. Can't wait for season 3. Love this show. They said they're about halfway done shooting season 3 as of yesterday. Literally was the halfway point. So we have a good feel for where they are. So it's interesting, right? Like we saw maybe 2 weeks ago when we saw, Coulter and what's the name show up as Finn Jones show up as Iron Fist and Luke Cage. They were in the cloaks in those like Getty Images pictures when they were shooting. That was 2 weeks ago. So they're about halfway in. So that tells me that we're probably going to see Luke Cage and Iron Fist very early in season 3, which means there's still a lot to potentially be done in season 3 post what we saw from those Getty Images just a couple days ago or a couple weeks ago. Other last note I saw online. You know who else in New York City right now that I find interesting? Elodie Young. Elodie Young, who plays Elektra in the first iteration of the Daredevil show on Netflix, and then she was also in Defenders. She posted randomly today, I'm in New York City, just hanging out. And I'm like, Daredevil's filming. She's in New York City. Makes me wonder, maybe we'll see Return of Elektra, just saying. So, anyway, man, that's going to be it for this abbreviated version of 40 Days and Counting. Well, thank you guys so much for checking us out. Of course, you can follow us on multiple avenues. Again, we stream live on YouTube every Tuesday, 6 p.m., Friday, 8 a.m. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, New Generation Media. And while you're at it, make sure you give me a like, comment in the comment section, engage however you can. Greatly appreciate that. Also, be sure to check me out on X, EJ_Stewart, where we're also live. Shout out to the folks watching on X. And streaming live on Instagram, ActionEJ. As well, for the first time ever, and I was able to confirm because I actually looked at my phone to see if it was on, and we are up on Buzzer. So shout out to Buzzer again. I'll be doing some really fun content with them starting tomorrow. So make sure you keep your eyes and ears peeled for some announcements tomorrow with Buzzer. They have a phenomenal team that they're putting together of content creators and people that are passionate about sports and pop culture and entertainment. This is going to be, I think, the next big thing. So you guys want to make sure you follow what's happening with Buzzer. BZZR is where you'll find them. Searching the social media, of course, searching for the app. BZZR. Again, all sports, no frills. Really, really awesome stuff we're doing over here. So shout out to Buzzer, where they were for the first time streaming 40 days and counting here as well. So that's gonna do it, man. Well, thank you guys so much. I gotta watch this Knicks game. Let's go Knicks, of course. Make sure you subscribe to me again on X, EJ_Stewart, Instagram, ActionEJ. And make sure you, if you want to listen to the podcast, of course, these episodes get podcasted. So just search New Generation Podcast Network wherever you get your podcasts. We'll have a new episode of Orange and Blue Bloods coming up to recap Game 2 of the Knicks-Sixers affair that's happening tonight. We'll have probably a Hero Talk episode soon to talk more about Daredevil, so be on the lookout for that. And of course, again, 4 Days of Counting back on Friday. I'm EJ Stewart. Take it easy, guys.